Hvala vam za sada. Molim vas, ostanite tu. Ubrzo nastavljamo naš razgovor, ali prvo slijedi jedan kratki reklamni predah. Gospodine Mann, već smo pričali o užasnim scenama kojima svjedočimo u pojasu Gaze. Pratimo i geopolitiku. Znamo da brojne svjetske sile brane, tako reći, Izrael, pravdaju njegovu agresiju na Gazu, kažu da ima pravo na samoodbranu. To je opravdanje za podršku koju oni zapravo daju sami Izraelu. Kako se uopće može tretirati ta vrsta podrške čak i nakon što je Međunarodni sud pravde, dakle, presudio da postoji vjerovatan rizik da se akcije Izraela svode na genocidne akte? Kako to komentarišete?
Okay, this is once again not an issue that we covered in the report with Physicians for Human Rights, so I'm going to answer it in my capacity as an expert in this field. I think that at this stage, the question that was very central to the debate in October 2023 about Israel's right to defend itself is somehow muted. So I think that's a very important debate. And I have my positions on it, but I think that whatever position you take on that question, and I'll take for this position, for this context, the position that Israel has a right to defend itself militarily against the terrible Hamas attack of October 7th, even that is somehow muted at this point, because there is no real rational connection between the defense of Israeli citizens and Israel's actions in the Gaza Strip at this time. I'll be a little bit more concrete about it. So in the beginning, after October 7th, Israel declared that it had two goals for its military campaign. One was to eliminate the military risk of Hamas, or to eliminate Hamas, sometimes was said, and the other was to bring back the hostages. When we were during the Biden administration, viewers may remember that the Biden administration said time and time again that it requires Israel to have a plan for the day after. And Israel never had a plan for the day after. It never really tried to enter a clear diplomatic avenue in which there might be some other power that is able to take the Gaza Strip in a secure way. Primarily, that would be a Palestinian power, or to be more specific about it, the Palestinian Authority. But with time, it became clear that the most expansive definition of eliminating the military threat of Hamas has been applied by Israel. In other words, that Israel is intent to eliminate Hamas as such, as an organization that has military capacities and civilian capacities. In this regard, it does relate to what we wrote in the report, because the hospitals were perceived as Hamas targets by Israel in some contexts, not even providing any clear evidence that there was clear military activity in the hospitals. It seemed like the fact that this is part of the Gaza government, Hamas government, already made it possible to target these facilities. And after that, we have seen another update in the goals of the war. And that update, which is partly declared by our Minister of Security, Israel Katz, and partly denied by our IDF, Israel Defense Forces, or the army, is to deport the population of Gaza, to create a Gaza Riviera, what have you. These are manifestly illegal targets of the war. And inasmuch as these targets are on the table, it is clear above any other claim that under international law, such a target cannot be legal. And this is no longer even a claimed war of defense, whatever you think of that claim as it appeared 2 years ago. And at this point in time, I think that the conversation must change. And I'm talking about primarily Israel's allies in Europe, for example, the UK, and including Germany as well. Germany has taken a strong position that Israel can defend itself. And as my own personal capacity, I agree with that position. I agree that after October 7th, Israel had the right to defend itself. But I'm also as insistent that that is no longer what we are seeing now. But monstrously, we have seen a completely different target come into the light and be almost fully declared and acknowledged by the Israeli government, and including by the Israeli judiciary in one particular case. That is to say, to destroy the Gaza population. The perception is, my understanding is that the perception is that the destruction of Gaza is necessary in order to provide security, a kind of long-term security for Israelis and Israeli citizens. This is a kind of argument that has no place in international law. If we have an international legal system, this is a question that is the answer to which is absolutely not clear at this stage. But if we're assuming that we do have such a system, we cannot give such an answer. And all states that are allies of Israel must adjust their policies in order to acknowledge that the targets that are being pursued right now are manifestly illegal. Thank you.
Gospođo Leibowitz, upravo je gospodin Mann pričao o kršenju konvencija, prava, zakona, ljudskih prava, stoga ne mogu da vas ne pitam u kontekstu izraelske politike i društva koji su po vama najvidljiviji obrasci kršenja ljudskih prava o kojima se zapravo najmanje govori i koji nisu toliko izloženi javnosti, pored naravno provođenja politike genocida i izglavnjivanja kojima svjedočimo prethodnih dana?
I would say that one of the maybe not so much talked about manifestations of violations, but maybe it's at the heart of it, is the almost total separation between Jewish Israelis and Palestinians in the whole region between the river and the sea. So this is happening within Israel as well. I'm reminded of a book called The City in the City, written by a Canadian author, which it's a novel, it's fiction, but it somehow addresses Yugoslavia back then. Like it addresses some place in the region. It's imaginary, and it speaks about a city where you have two people from warring nations, but they're living absolutely together, and they do not see each other physically, and what that entails. It reminds me of the situation in between the river and the sea, with some differences. Obviously, you need to go back. There's context. There is obviously the 1948 war, the Nakba for the Palestinians, the displacement. And then the 1967 war with the occupation and ensuing wars and things. One thing leads to the other. In all of this time, one can be a Jewish Israeli and grow up and not meet a Palestinian, not in the neighborhood and not in the school, and maybe in the university. And maybe in some work situations, but it's not on an equal footing. The laws of the country are ones that give preference and superiority to the Jewish citizens, and I think that's one of the roots of not seeing and not seeing, or seeing and turning away, or seeing and not caring about what is happening 70 kilometers away in Gaza, or a few kilometers away in where Palestinians within Israel live as well. So I think that's for me one of the causes of these violations. I think the other root causes is something that Itamar mentioned before. We are seeing world powers and European countries providing support and aligning behind Israel's policies, and that I think that's one of the outside causes. If I spoke beforehand about an inner root cause, that's an outer root cause, which enables Israel to take these actions and not be held accountable. And what needs to happen is accountability and justice.
Gospodine Mann, bližimo se kraju naše emisije. Željela bih da zaključimo naš razgovor sa sljedećim pitanjem. Dakle, svjedoci smo tome da svijet svakodnevno gleda najveće zločine, gleda genocid uživo. Zbog čega se do sada nije spriječio taj zločin? Ima li nade da će biti spriječen ili možemo očekivati sličan scenarij kao u Bosni i Hercegovini dok je svijet gledao, dakle bio je muk, ništa se nije dešavalo. Ima li pomoći za Palestince?
We conclude our report, and this is a note that I recall that Tirza Leibowitz had added to our writing in a very, I think, perceptive way, with the recognition that this genocide cannot be prevented at this stage. The Genocide Convention, as planned by Jewish-Polish lawyer Raphael Lemkin, had a preventive aspect, and it was supposed to structurally serve as a kind of alarm bell. When South Africa submitted its application to the International Court of Justice, I did not personally think that we would see a full-blown genocide in Gaza, but they decided to ring that alarm bell. And in retrospect, it is absolutely clear at this stage that they were right in doing so. And that when we are saying that it is genocide now, we no longer have the privilege of being in the preventive role or in the role of the alarm bell. We're identifying when we're recognizing what is happening, and we're calling, as Tirza said, for accountability. However, I do have hope, and we wouldn't do this if we would not have the hope that ceasing the genocide is something that may be possible to do. I think that in the last weeks, we have seen on the diplomatic level, more and more governments speaking about the recognition of the state of Palestine. And my message in this context is clear, I think. International law has many mechanisms. Many of them are made of words and of discourse. That includes the accession to treaties, the recognition of statehood, and even something like provisional measures is ultimately discourse. And states are growing and towards the recognition that in terms of discourse, they must recognize the rights of Palestinians. But this in itself is far from being enough. If we only continue with discourse, if words continue to be the only obligation towards the most basic rights of the Palestinian people, the genocide will continue and will become even more obsolete and even more horrible than the horrible reality that we're already seeing. So what needs to be done is that states that are considering recognition of Palestine, for example, we've heard about France, the UK, Spain, Portugal, and other countries in Europe, need to understand that they need to put deeds next to their words, and that there needs to be very simple and very clear measures that can steer Israel's policies towards a different direction. Israel is not immune by definition or anything like that. And I also echo the analysis provided earlier by Tirza, my colleague. There needs to be a dual movement. The external movement is not enough, and people in Israel, I myself am sometimes in Israel and sometimes at this time living in Germany, but I see myself as part of the society. We must also work to allow this recognition of the very terrible reality in Gaza to come into the mainstream of Israeli society and to invite a completely different reflection about where policies may go and about measures of accountability that need to be put in place. I don't see things changing in the short term. And in fact, in the short term, I do see a continuation of the genocide. And part of our point in the report is that even if a ceasefire happens tomorrow, the medical and health aspects of the genocide will continue at least months into the future, because the population of Gaza, the survivors, do not have a functioning health system or hospitals to serve them. Having said that, I think that it is still a vast difference between doing nothing and between doing what we can, and between stopping at this point and kind of collecting the pieces of the shattered reality or continuing to shatter it as parts of our government are determined to do. And I think that as much as we can pressure governments wherever we are to move towards that direction, we have more hope that we can save lives.
Mi se pridružujemo tim nadama, gospođo Leibowitz, gospodine Mann. Hvala vam najljepša na gostovanju u emisiji 7+, i hvala vam što predstavljate svijetu istinu o užasnim dešavanjima u pojasu Gaze. Hvala još jednom. Hvala i vama, poštovani gledaoci, na ukazanom poverenju. Ostanite i dalje uz program Hayat televizije. Sve propuštene sadržaje potražite na našem portalu hayat.ba. Doviđenja.